The Trump administration losing again. We've reported on their many failed efforts to indict or probe enemies or perceived critics. Well, now the DOJ, in a stunning reversal, is finally backing down from what had already been a failed, subpoena-quashed, attempted probe into the Federal Reserve Chair, who wields power over the economy. Trump thought that he could abuse DOJ powers to berate Powell, Jerome Powell, into either doing what he wanted on the economy or maybe quitting the job. That failed. Now, part of this is the Trump DOJ and the administration blinking in a standoff with the Senate because Trump had put a new person forward for that job under the normal cycle of order, Kevin Warsh, to lead the bank. And he couldn't do that, said senators who actually drew a line, regardless of his qualifications, if what they viewed as this flimsy or bogus probe continued. This comes days after the U.S. Attorney for D.C., a face you might remember from Fox News, Jeanine Pirro, was claiming that they were going to continue even as they ran into brick walls in court, including judges quashing subpoenas last month. That was a sign they didn't even have enough to hold down subpoenas, let alone an indictment. This is the latest of the very, very, very large list of supposed enemies who have faced this kind of probe, subpoena, indictment, retaliation. You see on your screen, many of these have failed. You can see the Powell case on the upper left dropped now. That's our update. Obviously, we recognize there's a lot to track if you looked at all the stamps, but the overall theme is of them failing. Indeed, if you looked for a single win, meaning they actually had enough evidence to convict a person, well, they are 0 and 20 plus at this point. Pirro announced this not in a formal press conference or a letter to Congress, which has been involved in oversight, but on that favored platform of so many Trump officials who are sometimes performative and more interested in X than results. She posted this on X. I have directed my office to close our investigation. She won't hesitate to restart it, though, if the facts warrant it. Notice that even in backing down, they're kind of referencing the idea that maybe the facts did not warrant it. The probe dropped as lawmakers, including Republicans, called this out for the fact-free, evidence-free, likely retaliation that it was.
U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro says the Department of Justice is dropping the criminal probe of Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
There was sort of no grounds that anybody could find for the charges or for the effort.
I think it's a good outcome. It's something that I felt should be done for a number of weeks.
I said I can't go forward until this bogus investigation is done with.
Jerome Powell stood tall. He stared down the president.
Tell the prosecutors in D.C. to do their homework before they launch a criminal investigation without a referral from Congress.
Several of the voices you heard there are Republicans. And if you're thinking, gosh, they sound a lot tougher than they used to or even last year, well, this fits with the other big storyline this week, that Trump's polling is crashing, that major figures with larger followings than Republican senators on the right, like Megyn Kelly and Tucker, have been hitting Trump. We have more on that later. And so the whole mood has changed. Also, fighting works. One of the quoted Republican senators there had said, as I mentioned, but it bears underscoring, they weren't going to move forward. They weren't going to give a vote to the next guy until this bogus case was dropped. Now, if this were a legitimate case, if all the facts were there, you wouldn't necessarily want Congress doing that. You need to trust their judgment if they're going to draw that firm a line with another branch of government. But I showed you the chart. When there's this many baseless open probes, some of them already dismissed and defeated in court, yes, you can draw a line. And credit to the Republican who did. Now, we know the DOJ has been in crisis. We know Trump already fired Attorney General Bondi over partly these type of cases not going anywhere. And now you have her deputy, who's acting Attorney General, Blanche, trying to make all kinds of moves to show Trump that he can be as partisan as Bondi and maybe get more partisan results. He's striving to silence critics on the right with a conspicuous salvo of actions demonstrating what they view as progress on Trump's priorities. This is how the Times reports it. Among them, quote, payback against Trump's adversaries. Now, that's just a normal New York Times report. That's just a description of the reality. But keep in mind, that's not okay. That's not normal. We're now in a place where you have government officials admitting they're trying to show off that they are going to break the rules against selective prosecution. They want to revive the probes that failed against Comey and James. She recently appeared on The Beat and discussed how she is not intimidated by what was then a failed probe. And they want to go at the CIA chief, John Brennan, who has become, of course, like other government officials, someone who uses his First Amendment rights, sometimes criticizes a government he once served. You watch the news, you probably see on any channel a lot of former government officials giving their views. That's kind of part of our democracy, certainly part of our Constitution. And yet the fact that his views have been critical of Trump appears to be pushing an effort to literally criminalize his past CIA service. Because everybody knows, back in the 2016 campaign, there were credible concerns about Putin and about Russian assets and Russian meddling in the election. He was involved in that, and the Times reports. Few tasks are as central to mollifying this demanding Trump as fast-tracking that Brennan indictment, despite multiple inquiries failing to show evidence of any wrongdoing. I should mention, again, he was a former CIA chief. Full disclosure, Brennan has been an analyst for us for years. Not unlike other people from the military and national security wing. We have generals as analysts. We have former politicians. You've probably seen it. So full disclosure on that. But he is speaking out now on what is also in the news, the effort to go after him, he and others say, for his First Amendment rights. Take a look.
It's clear that this administration, the Trump administration, wants to continue to try to assert that there was some wrongdoing. And I am quite proud of what we did to uncover and expose Russian interference in that 2016 election. They claim to be part of the Republican Party. This is not the Republican Party that I work with.
Brennan speaking out. We've heard others speak out. Remember, when I showed you that list, there are also people on there who are not as prominent a person as a former CIA chief who brings a certain kind of power and institutional relationships and may have better access to law firms, may have more funds. Some of the individuals are prominent. They're later in their careers. They have money, which is part of this. But I also have people on that list that include first-time congressional candidates and junior members of Congress, people on public salaries who don't have those benefits. Tonight, we are following another loss for this agenda, but it's an agenda that can still hurt people and undermine our democracy even as it sputters in court.